Yo, what's up, guys? It's Zadok with another, Yo, where to smash at, though? It's been a while since I've done one of these. It's, been about, what, 3 months now? And, so, coming up with a topic for this was, quite a bit harder than I thought it'd be. So, it's turning into a monthly thing now. I'm not gonna try to do it every week. There's really no reason to. So expect to see these at least once a month. I'm gonna try to do, but tonight our topic is talking about the Smash community as a whole, and why it's why it's what's different about it in comparison to like the FGC, and why we have different communities as a whole. So representing quote unquote the brawl community, we have Zinoto, and representing the quote unquote melee community is everybody knows him, Juggleguy. So let's get them in the call real quick, and we'll go from there. Yo,
Hello?
what's up?
What's up, Scott?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. So we'll start the conversation out talking about why you guys think we have different communities. Just like just a quick start off, a general rundown on why you think the communities are split up into different sections, I guess you would call them.
You want to start, Rob?
Why do I think there's kind of different sects of the community, like different sections?
Yeah.
I think people just really like their game. It's not, it maybe it has to do with the community too. They're maybe not so much wanting to go out of their comfort zone, and since they love their game so much, like why, go to the effort to try something else when they could just stay at home and play what they want to play. That's really the only thing I think it is.
I kind of agree with that. One of the main reasons why I think there's so many different communities in Smash in general is just because there's just so many different games, and they're still coming out with other games. Some of the different Smash games like Brawl and Melee, they kind of bring about their own type of style of person that gets attracted to the game, and so mainly because a lot of people like that specific game or like that specific type of person that the game it draws in. They just typically hang around that kind of environment, and so it just naturally creates the vibe.
Yeah, I think so. The game has a lot to do with it for sure, but just thinking back to the different regions that I've traveled to, I think the community is also really important. So I went to West Coast for a couple weeks just on a vacation this past summer, and they do everything together over there. Like they will not just play Melee together, but they will like ask if they want to go to a basketball game together or go see a movie or whatever. And if you're that tight knit, it can be like either really hard to move on to another game or really easy if everybody does it. That's my opinion. So I think individually, there's not much incentive for somebody to say, okay, I'm going to go out of my comfort zone and go play another game, go try it out in a new community. But if they have their own community of people also doing the same thing, then I feel like it's a lot easier.
I agree.
Yeah, I feel that. So what do you guys think of it from like a player standpoint? Like, let's say someone who's been playing Melee. We'll put Melee first. Let's say someone who's been playing Melee for I don't even know how many years. We'll just say for 8 years or so. And
Sure.
he's a little bit interested in Brawl, but it kind of seems like the Melee community bashes the Brawl community a little bit more than the Brawl community bashes Melee. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a culture thing. Anybody who has, tried to play a new game or, found a new job and had to meld into the, company or tried to, like, manage a team or anything knows that it's really hard to change the culture of a team or a community. That's what I think. And I guess there's this perception within the Melee community that, it's the greatest game ever, and I would say most Melee players actually truly believe it's the greatest game ever. I'm not gonna agree or disagree with that, but that's just what I have observed. So I feel like there is always, kind of this piggybacking attitude of if somebody starts bashing another game, people just do it. People just also tag along and do it. So those are kind of my observations on why that happens. But I also think the majority of Melee players are not that way. I think it's definitely a case of the vocal minority just putting kind of a bad name to like the Melee bashers, or sorry, the Melee people who bash Brawl and other games. So I do think it is kind of a perceived. It's perceived to be worse than it actually is, but the people who do bash pretty hard, and some of them actually really mean it. So that can be kind of scary when people are just tagging along and also doing the same thing.
Okay. Now, like from a Brawl player standpoint, like how do you see that though?
Well, I like when Roller was living in Michigan. Me and him and Kevin, also WTB, we were talking about it. The same actual question, and it came up, and Roller actually said that he used a good example that Brawl players are kind of Smash players in general. They like to play whatever Smash game is generally around. There's not too many people who say, yeah, I'm only gonna play Brawl, or I'm only gonna play Brawl specifically, I guess, because a lot of Brawl players now are playing Project M's. A lot of Brawl players are also Melee players, and Brian also said that Melee players are usually just Melee players. The game's really, really old, and to stick around with a game for that long, they kind of develop their own type of pride with it, associated with it. Like, this is my game. Like, I put so much time into this that I've gotten good at it, and this is like Rob said, the best game out there. Like, this is the best Smash game. And so I think that's where a lot of the bashing just stems from. It's just because Melee community has a lot, and that's also coming from a person who also plays Melee, is that the Melee community has a lot larger sense of pride, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And by no means, don't get me wrong when I'm saying this, but there's not a large percentage of the Melee community that does all the bashing and stuff. But in general, the main reason is just because it's a pride thing. Melee players are generally Melee players. They like their game.
I agree with that, and I think the reason for that stems all the way back to like the origins of competitive Smash, I think. So some people might not know this, but competitive Melee came before competitive Smash 64. So Melee is actually like the first true like competitive Smash scene, and for people who grew up in that environment, I think it can be really hard to transition into Brawl, or some went to 64 and some are going to go to Project M and Smash 4, but the people who did move on to Brawl, I definitely agree that a lot more Brawl players play more Smash games, and I think that's kind of inherent to the Brawl community because they were the people who were willing to move on from Melee, at least a lot of them, and try out Brawl when 2008 came and there's a new game. So I think if you go back to the Melee community, people who still play Melee right now, there's a reason they're still playing it 12 years after it came out, right?
Yep.
There's
Yeah,
4
for sure.
Smash games, and they chose Melee. So it's definitely true that like Brawl players generally play more Smash games, but I think that's just like an inherent part of why like they're mainly Brawl players, is because they were willing to make that switch and try it out in 2008, whereas the Melee players stuck with Melee, and you're not going to change that culture very
Definitely
easily.
not. I fully agree.
That's fine. Now, a lot of what the Brawl players think about Melee is that they think it's a more technical game, but there's players like we'll use Zinoto as an example since he's here, but he's one of the more technical Brawl players that I've ever seen. So like
Yeah, dude, it's crazy what he does. I've seen it.
so I think that's kind of misinterpreted as well, because I think each game has their own tech skill. Just there's just different amounts of tech skill. Not to say not amounts. I guess I mean to say like
Different types.
yeah, like different types.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I completely agree with that. I don't necessarily consider either one more technical than the other. Seeing I do play both, and technicality in melee. Okay, I can use it. Let's use this as an example. So in melee, generally you're punished for bad spacing, bad, just being out of position more. And in melee, it's more costly to get punished. In brawl, you're getting punished more for how do I put it? It's not necessarily spacing. It's just you're making mistakes. You're just being outplayed, I guess. In brawl, there's no real reason for I don't know how to put it, but in general, melee or brawl isn't necessarily more technical than the other. It's just the reason why people mainly say melee is a more technical game is just because it's so much more fast paced. Like you can always see something happening in melee, whereas in brawl, it's just more of a matter of spacing or more of a matter of options that you choose. There's more of options in that game. But the people who think that melee or is more technical than brawl or brawl is more technical than melee it's just completely irrelevant. Just because they have different types of tech skill. I don't think they can really be compared in that sense.
Yep, I kind of agree with that. I accepted a long time ago that there's never going to be a good argument on like what the definition of technical is. There's different types of technical. There is like the flashy shield pressure in melee types of technical, where you're Fox and you just go berserk on someone's shield, and you don't mess up your inputs. Or there's the type of technical that if you're Falcon and you land all your L cancels and you're pretty much frame perfect and consistent with everything.
Yep.
That's like two examples right there, and you can kind of go down that spectrum until you reach like so many different types of technical. So I think when people say that word, they automatically think their perceived image is one of like Fox trying to shield pressure someone and just like going berserk on their shield, but that's not like the only type of technical out there. So a long time ago I kind of accepted that there's never going to be a good like argument for melee is the most technical game. It's just melee is very different from brawl, and there's different types of technical. So it's almost pointless to discuss it because they're so different as games. That's how I feel.
I agree, and also I guess I can use this as an example. When people usually ask me like, why do you even play? I've been asked this quite a few times. Why do you play melee? It's so much different from brawl. What do you find interesting about the game? And I always tell them it's like, the thing that I value the most about melee is that you just have to be accurate. In brawl, you don't necessarily have to always be accurate, but you just have to always just stay ahead of your opponent. Always be looking out a step ahead, always looking for options that you can take advantage of. But in melee, it's just like you just have to be precise. Bad spacing can lead you into down air from Falcon, and then he combos you all the way across the stage with a knee or something like that. But in brawl, I don't feel that necessary pressure to always have to be in the right position or always have to be frame perfect with what I do, hit all of my L cancels, nothing like that. But I just feel like brawl and melee have two different types of technicalities that they should be both looked into differently. I don't think that one should necessarily compare them because they're both different games. They have different I don't know. They have different things that you need to be looking into and different things that some people value over others. And so, yeah, I just feel like technicalities should a technical player in brawl and a technical player in melee shouldn't really be considered. It's not the same game.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, so what you guys think is basically the reason the community is split into like brawl and melee communities because the games are so different, right?
Yep.
So, when we're talking about let's talk about the FGC a little bit. So, let's a lot of the FGC guys can move their skills onto other fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just a bigger community in that point. They're more drawn together that way. But I have somebody from the FGC I'd like to call in to see what he thinks about the Smash community and why they're split as well.
Okay.
So give me 1 second. Yeah, I don't know much about the FGC, but I do, to my basic understanding, I do see that they there's a lot of crossover attendance between the different fighting games, much more so than like Brawl versus Melee versus Smash 64 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What's up, Aaron?
Alright, I think I made it.
What's up?
Yo,
Now, let's talk about this from a fighting game community standpoint. How does most of the FGC, in your opinion, see the Smash community?
I guess it depends on like who you're talking about. So if you look at the internet a lot, you probably don't see the greatest responses. But as far as in person, honestly, like almost everybody that I talk to has some form of history with Smash, and most of them are pretty respectful of it, at least in our area. Just because I don't know, a lot of them they're big gamers. They play lots of different games, and since they're fighting gamers, they're really serious about games. And even so, when they pick up a game like Smash Bros, they still get pretty competitive. They all still play without items, and one-on-ones, two-on-twos, and some of them are pretty good. I know that dude, I couldn't believe that kid Adrian was playing at the tournament on Saturday, and he took what, third or second?
Oh
or something
yeah,
to state?
PZO, yeah.
He wins our Tekken tournaments all the time, but
Mhm.
but I don't know. In person, I think that it's actually fairly good, and you can see that too in like how it's been accepted across a lot of major tournaments. Just mostly, because the Evo kind of brought that back in. But there's a lot of events that have just been adding Smash, and I don't hear of any problems at those tournaments. I don't know. I guess I haven't been to too many of them, but
it seems like it's more of an online thing more than it is in person, because it seems like in person, like none of the Smash community really has a problem with the FGC or vice versa. Like I don't know how it was at Evo, but I know Robin was there, and I didn't hear any complaints from him or anyone else who was there about the FGC.
Is that a question to me?
I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was at Evo. It was an awesome experience, and I felt like it couldn't have gone better for the Smash community at Evo. Like the way we represented ourselves, and also like I was super impressed with how the FGC kind of stayed to watch Melee at noon after King of Fighters was on earlier in the day. So I mean I didn't really see any sort of like FGC Smash like tension or anything that people talk about online at all at Evo. Like that was not even like that was completely an afterthought to me. Like I didn't think about it at all. So I definitely think it's an online thing. Like if you look anywhere on the internet about something, you will see that it's much different than it is in person. So definitely agree with that. And it's I just think it's kind of overblown, the whole Smash FGC relationship thing.
I agree with that. The reason why I mainly think it's kind of overblown is just because Smash isn't as popular as a lot of the fighting game community. Well, it's starting to become more popular, but in previous years, I guess, it wasn't as popular, anywhere near as popular as most of the fighting game community games like Street Fighter, Tekken, and all that stuff. And it's just, I think the fighting game community had to get used to it being there, and now that Smash is a lot more known and it's advertising a lot more, I feel like it's just time has been able to ease that tension a little bit. We've integrated a little bit more into the community where it's not that big of a weird thing to deal with. Because the only real experience that I've had with the fighting game community is at Apex and one of the Michigan Rambats. And I mean, even though the communities, the first thing I noticed was they're just completely different. One main thing I realized is that they all the communities see them as like gaming communities, regardless of what game it is. They all recognize the other communities as gaming communities, and because they recognize them as another gaming community, they're never gonna be like hostile or just completely tyrannous, I guess, towards another Smash community. I mean, another gaming community. I never had any major problems with another community just because they all realize that we're all just gamers.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, AddMitt, Ori wants to know if the Michigan fighting game community enjoys having Smash at their Ranbats.
Yes, because I don't know, it's just more interesting. We had that really massive venue, and we were using less than half of it, And something that really just helps hype up events when you're at an event is just more people, more noise, more stuff going on. So I got you guys filled up pretty much the entire other back half of the place. I know a lot of them go over there a lot. Some of our people have been entering your tournaments. Some of your people have found their way into our tournaments. So great cross promotion. Everyone loves it. I literally have not heard a single complaint from anyone on your end, at least. So yeah, absolutely. And I love it every time you guys can come. Makes for a much better event, I think. So
Is there a specific Smash game that the majority of the FGC prefers, or is it just they just like seeing Smash?
it's weird. They all actually, you can talk to most all of them about Smash, and they'll have something to tell you about what they like. But you know, there's a lot of like old Melee heads that pretty much because they probably didn't just they just played Melee when they were younger and played it more, and then they didn't really play Brawl as much. But there's a lot of people who highly prefer Melee. There's a lot of people who still really love Brawl. As I'd say there's actually probably a little bit more that play Brawl that I know, but and then there's a few that play Project M like me. But I don't know. It's pretty mixed. Older people usually Melee, a little bit younger ones usually Brawl. But
Yeah, that tends to be a lot of the case for a lot of newer players. Another question for you is is there any specific reason why the Brawl scene was invited over the Melee scene?
because Ori said he was going to throw Brawl tournaments.
Well,
Yeah, dude.
okay, that was pretty easy.
I haven't actually been to one of those, so I got to check it out sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like
I literally let Ori take the reins in the whole thing because I just wanted. We didn't have much in us to manage our own Smash tournaments, and it's hard to be in general to be like a new tournament organizer and to get people out. So I just wanted somebody who was more
that
notable
is
and respectable.
absolutely the right call. It's absolutely the right call. Like the TO, the person that people look to should be somebody within that game's community. Like
I completely agree.
there've always been disastrous results when somebody outside the community tries to be the main TO of a game and tries to like do it that way, you know. So
Yep.
Well, yeah.
definitely agree. Bringing Ori on as you know, if you want Brawl at the tournament, if you want Smash at the tournament, bring Ori on and he makes the decisions. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that Aaron and Robin have each other now, like maybe Robin can get in some Melee tournaments over there now. The venue's really nice if you've never been there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to that for sure. Just I would like to see what the schedule is and like see if that's feasible or not. I definitely gonna go check it out one of these times. But I don't really know what the schedule is. I'm out of the loop for that right now.
All right. Well, one more question for you, AddMitt, before we let you go. Do you think the FGC will ever accept Smash as a whole as part of the FGC?
I think that depends on how the next game kind of turns out. Because if the next game is good and it's really competitive, I think a lot of people are going to play it. I feel like almost everybody in all gaming communities has played Smash Bros. And they'll all try out a new Smash Bros. Game. And if it really proves itself as a really good game, I think everyone's going to be playing it. And I think that Smash 4 tournaments have the potential to be like massive if the game's good for competitive play and everything. But so we'll see. It's getting better and better, I think, as long as the Smash community holds up and stays strong, and they can still, support Smash at FGC events. I think for sure.
I don't necessarily think there is a need for like for example, I don't actually think too many Smashers like really have a great desire to be like quote unquote part of the FGC, and I don't think it's that important either. Like the distinction between what are you officially part of the FGC or not, I don't think it matters that much, because at events like Apex and Evo where they're both there, like it brings the hype, and it doesn't really matter if like you're quote unquote part of the FGC or not. Like I feel like Smash is a big opportunity for FGC tournaments, just because if you look at like the Evo numbers, I think at least 500 unique entrants were brought to the table just by Smash alone. So that's big for tournament organizers who want like more unique entrants to come to the actual tournament, to get more venue fee and just like make the tournament better and more hype.
Yeah, and FGC is just a name too. It's like when you really think about it, even FGC is broken up into a bunch of different groups. I mean, because it's like, what does becoming a part of the FGC really entail? Does that mean that you talk in the same forums or something? Well, if that's the case, I mean, the FGC is split up in that regard too, as far as Soul Calibur forums and all the Tekken Zaibatsu and all the different, even that's all split up and segregated. So it's just a blanket name over the people who watch the traditional fighting games. As far as being accepted, I think it's mostly already there. That people accept it, they like it. And it can continue to be called, if you were quote unquote accepted by the FGC, it could continue to still be called the Smash community because it's people talking about Smash. But
yeah, I feel like people have misinterpreted like wanting to be accepted by the FGC. I think that actually means wanting to have a presence at FGC events. Those two things are like completely different, and I think people are taking the first interpretation, whereas most Smashers would like to be, would like to have their game have a presence at FGC events if possible, but they couldn't really care less about whether they're officially like part of the FGC or not, like as a label. So that is what I think gets kind of mixed up sometimes.
Okay, so let's reword the question then. Do you guys think that there's going to be more joint tournaments then with Smash and the traditional fighting games?
I definitely do, especially after Evo.
Yeah.
Mainly, and you can even see it in Smash 4 if you just look at the artwork that they do for it and all the information that they're releasing about it. That Smash game is starting to look more like a traditional fighter than any of the Smash games I've previously seen. It's just
True.
even the games, just because we've integrated more with the FGC community, it's making everything kind of meld together. The newer games are starting to look like the fighting game community games, and all of our tournaments will probably or more likely have FGC participation in it. I definitely think in the future there's going to be a lot more integration between the two communities.
There already is. Like after Evo, there's already been 3 major tournaments that were mostly fighting games, like traditional fighting games that included Smash, and I think it was Landhammer, and then Fall Classic coming up this weekend, and then Canada Cup in 2 weeks. And I'm willing to bet without Evo, none of those 3 tournaments would even consider having Smash. Not because they like hate Smash or anything, but it's because they didn't really know that there was this giant underground community of Smash that would actually come to their tournaments. Now that Evo has proven that, a lot of these FGC tournament organizers are willing to make that leap, and I think it's a really good step for for both communities to be able to do that.
I completely agree.
Now,
Evo was a huge step for us.
Now, vice versa, do you think the Smash community TOs will be more welcoming to the traditional fighting games as well? Do you think they'll have more joint events that way?
That is a great question, and I might sound cynical, but I think the answer is no, because the Smash community is kind of more secluded, and it's always been this underground thing, an underground grassroots thing, where, just look at the Melee players. They're not even willing to go to Brawl necessarily, so why would they go to, different fighting games, let alone host different tournaments with fighting games? So I think, I'm going to say no to that question, but that's not like a cynical, I hate the FGC no. It's because I just don't think it's a natural part of
you're talking
what
about
Smash TOs would do.
You're talking about the Melee community in general.
Yeah, I'm talking more specifically about the Melee community, like Melee TOs, and just the history of Melee TOs. There's not been a lot of giant multi-game nationals. It's been Brawl's been at a lot of them. Like Genesis 1 and 2 had Brawl. A lot of people don't know that. Pound 4 and 5 had Brawl, but Apex is really the only one that has tried to bring in the FGC and really integrate it and be successful at it.
Okay.
So I don't think
if there were larger events or more larger events as well. It seems like FGCs have 1 or 2 big events somewhere in the country every month.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
The Smash events there's not quite as many of them, and if they had more huge ones, they probably would invite more games to them. But since they're still a little bit smaller, it's like they just keep to what they know and can handle. And
I think the biggest Smash tournament to talk about is Apex. I think Apex does a couple traditional fighting games, doesn't it?
Oh, it does a
does-
lot of them.
Oh, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
It
Did all of
even
them
does
last year.
Pokemon. Like,
At least 5 or 6.
So
Pretty
I
sure.
mean, Apex is definitely the Smash tournament that does that.
Right.
Yeah, well, Alex Strife has this vision for like more FGC Smash integration, and he's pulled it off pretty decently with the last 2. Like, there's been a lot of growth in that area, but I think it's going to take an Apex level event to really get the FGC to come out in numbers to like what was traditionally previously a Smash like exclusive event. Because just the other like regional and even national Smash tournaments, there's just not much incentive right now to try to include the FGC. There's a lot of like potential payoff if it works, but it's also a lot of work for probably not much potential reward in the eyes of TOs. And that's why I don't think a lot of Smash nationals are gonna try to incorporate the FGC anytime soon.
Yep, I agree with that. Smash is generally grassroots, and unless the tournament is going to be humongous or a largely scaled event, I don't think even the fighting game community would really want to attend lots of the events, just because like the fighting game community is used to Evo type tournaments. Like that's probably what they should. That's probably what the participants of fighting game community tournaments watch anyway, like the larger tournaments. And so I'm pretty sure like they wouldn't want to come out to even a lot of the locals that we would have because there just wouldn't be a large enough attendance to satisfy most of it.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Smash at FGC tournaments is much more beneficial to Smash than vice versa.
I agree.
FGC games being at Smash tournaments benefiting the FGC.
And also another big reason is just because competitive Smash is kind of, it's not well known to like the fighting game community, but competitive like Tekken and Street Fighter is really well known in the Smash community.
Yeah,
Everyone
great
pretty
point.
much knows that there's a competitive fighting game scene in whatever game they want, Persona, whatever it may be. But Smash is generally not well known.
So what it comes down to is the traditional fighting game community is already established, and the Smash community isn't quite there yet.
Yeah, I guess it's just, yeah, okay, I guess you could use it in those terms, but it's just,
I think it's a matter of size too.
Yeah.
If the Smash community was bigger, it would have more large events.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not quite as massive as Street Fighter 4 and Marvel and.
Well, yeah, the part of why Smash players would love to like see their game at FGC events is the exposure. Like Evo's a perfect example. I think people, you guys know about the Nintendo Stream crisis and everything, right? That's well documented at this
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
The reason that was such a huge deal is because that's the main value in Smash being at Evo is the exposure that comes with the live stream and having 130,000 people view Smash and maybe get exposed to it for the first time. So honestly, like anyone who attended Evo for Melee, we couldn't care less whether there were 700 people there or 500 or 300 even. Like that would not really have made a difference. It was kind of the bigger picture that everybody was keeping in mind. Like this is gonna
Smash is at Evo.
Yeah, Smash is at Evo,
Yeah.
and people are gonna finally know about it, like
Yep.
who didn't before, and it has resulted in like Smash being at more tournaments, more FGC tournaments, like the Fall Classic and Canada Cup already. So I think it's definitely had a big effect already.
And there's been so many more new Smash players coming around after Evo as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I managed the Michigan Melee Facebook group, and I think we would get maybe 2 or 3 people per week, new people joining the group before Evo, and now it's like at least 1 or 2 every day who are new people requesting to join the group, which is which is awesome.
Yeah.
I even get lots of I never used to get I get a Facebook request a day from somebody that's like an incoming freshman or the sophomore that didn't know about the Smash scene here, and then like, oh, is the game room still where all the Smash players play? I would like to join the Smash Club.
Yeah. That's how.
Actually, it's funny. I remember when I first came up to Michigan and I wanted to join the Smash Brothers Club. I had no idea that there was a Smash Brothers Club at Michigan. I think I just happened to see a sign or something. And I sent an email to Rob, and it was all formal and everything.
Dude, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this guy's serious. He wrote up an email and he has good grammar.
Yeah.
I think
and
this guy would be good.
Man shows
And
up
it's
in a
hilarious 'cause
scarf.
that's what you see now. It's just like everybody's everybody knows that Smash is a competitive thing, and so now they're actually trying to find out about it now, like at Michigan and wherever Smash teams they have in their local area.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, it's about that time to move on from the FGC. AddMitt, thanks for joining us as always.
Yep. Get me in those Facebook groups too.
Yeah, for
Alright.
sure.
Alright.
I'll send you invites to him, son. All right, we'll catch you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, not a problem. See ya. All right, moving on real quick. We're gonna get kind of blunt. What from a brawl perspective and a melee perspective, what do you guys think of Project M as a game?
Julian, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I personally like Project. It's a really creative interlink between Brawl and Melee. It's not too much like Brawl. It's not too. At first, I thought it was just a lot like Melee, just because I don't practice the game at all, but I'm allowed. Like I just use the technical abilities that I have in Melee and just transfer that over to PM, and just hope that works. And usually it does. But the reason why I like PM, it's just so different. Like once you actually look at how the game's mechanics work, it's not like Melee 2.0, and it's not like just a sub game of Brawl. It's just its own type of thing. And I feel like even Melee players are starting to get into that. And I think it's just like a great intermediate between the two.
Yeah, I think so there are a lot of Melee players who play Project M. There's even a few that have quit Melee for Project M, which I if you told me that 2 years ago that some people would quit Melee for Project M, I'd be shocked.
There'd be no way.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who have actually done that. Maybe not so much in Michigan, but I know there's a pretty decent Chicago group who is PM focused. If they main a game, it's actually PM. So that's pretty surprising to me.
Oro comes to mind.
He is amazing at that game. I remember when I went to Ohio for the first time and I played him, and it was just ridiculous. Like I was like, "Yo, you're such a good Melee player. You probably don't even want to switch." And he would never switch over to Brawl. He probably would never even pick up that game. And then I see him play PM with I think it was Zero-Suit. He's just he took that game to another level. I was just so amazed.
Yeah. So on the flip side, what do you think most people in each community think of Project M? Because I know a lot of Melee players, they think you might as well just play Melee.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. People, so I feel like Project M they should kind of publicize their mission statement a little bit, because a lot of Melee players kind of get the impression that Project M's trying to replace Melee or Brawl, but I really don't think that's the case. I think it's supposed to complement Melee and Brawl. So a lot of Melee players say why would we play Project M when we could just go back to Melee, because that's our game. Yeah. But it's kind of the wrong attitude to take. I think I know PM is trying to expand into its own entity and not be reliant on Brawl or Melee tournaments and being a side event at those tournaments, but I feel like it's always going to be attached to both of these games, because there's not that many PM exclusive players yet. So if I had to sum up a Melee player's general attitude towards Project M, it is probably this game is pretty cool, and I definitely prefer it to Brawl, but if I want to play competitively and have fun I've been having fun for the last however many years, then I'm just going to play Melee,
Mm-hmm. Now, from a Brawl player's standpoint, they're kind of thinking, "Oh, I can be good at this game and look cool," and having to not learn so many Melee things.
I agree, but okay, from a Brawl player's perspective, it's like when I said earlier that Brawl players, they're just generally Smash players. I think a lot of Brawl players, just the ones that want to take PM seriously, just consider it as the next game, essentially. A lot of Brawl players that I know that actually play the game, they just switched over to either a side event for them, or they just switched over to a competitive. It's just another Smash game for a lot of Brawl players to play. That's generally how a lot of people in the Brawl community see it. And
Now,
I know lots of players switched over to it.
yeah. Now the thing I hear a lot is that people are under the impression that the PM exclusive players are just bad brawl players trying to be good at another game.
No, okay, that I guess for some players, I guess you could say that, but in general, I completely disagree with. Actually, not even in general. I just disagree with that, just mainly because like it's just a different game. I mean, like Brawl's been out for quite a while too now, and you know, some people have gotten bored of it. Some people just don't like it. I mean, yeah, there are some players that like, oh, I'm not good at this game. I'll just get a jump start on Project on PM, or when that game takes off, and I'll just be good at that. But even then, when you consider, like you just wanting to be good at the next game, PM is still like a smash game. The people who are good at melee, like really good at melee, people who are really good at brawl, they're still gonna kind of be better. Like it's a smash game still. Like the fundamentals of even in PM are generally the same because it's a smash game.
Yep.
They're not really getting a huge head start. They're getting a head start just because it's a different game, but they're not just gonna be like the best at this just because they started earlier.
Yeah.
So I disagree with that mentality.
It's one of those.
I think
it's
go
definitely
ahead,
it's definitely one of those things where like because I know a lot of the newer brawl players are interested in melee, and PM kind of gives them that in between where it's kind of like melee, but it's not as I guess you would say as strict as melee.
As strict?
Yeah, like
There's so many more openings now. Like a lot of the things that for example, I guess you could use Dr. Mario's up B wall kick thing. Like there's just a huge window for that now. Or a lot of zero suits mechanics where you just couldn't do certain things. They're all open now. It's just a lot more leeway given in that game.
Like Project M also has auto ledge canceling too. Is also another example.
Auto ledge canceling.
So like, and you know how
I sorry for being such a PM scrub. I don't know about
no, that's fine. But it's just like how you have to ledge cancel in melee.
Right, but what do you mean auto ledge canceling?
Like it kind of like the momentum from your aerial will sometimes cancel the animation and make you fall off a ledge.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those things where it kind of allows you to cheat in a way.
Yeah, I mean cheating's relative. If it's Project M, then it's Project M, right?
Yeah. Because they wanted to make it attractive to both brawl and melee players. So they wanted to keep a lot of the melee stuff, but they also wanted to attract brawl players to come over and try it out as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it still feels more like brawl to me, like to this day. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I sit down and play Project M, it still feels more like brawl, to me. So that's kind of a barrier that I would have to get through.
Yep.
In order to play it regularly, and some people apparently in Chicago have gotten through that barrier quite successfully, but like Michigan Melee in particular, I don't see it. Like I don't ever seeing. I don't think there's going to be a PM exclusive scene, that grows too big. It's not. It's just not something that I can see happening right now. Maybe sometime in the future.
West Michigan is a pretty PM exclusive scene now.
So have they? Let me ask you this: would like a good 10, 15, 20 people attend a PM exclusive tournament?
I think JTSM's actually trying out a PM exclusive tournament in March.
Actually, also in West Michigan, a lot of their tournaments now are exclusively PM.
Did not know that. Okay, well.
But I
see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with you on the point that Michigan. Okay, let's say the majority of the Michigan scene is in East Michigan, and I just don't see a lot of us transferring over to make PM exclusive tournaments.
Yeah.
And I also agree with the fact that PM it feels more like brawl. Just using as an example, in melee, I just and there's certain players that I just feel like I just can't do anything against. For an example, I guess we can just use Duck and Keizu also. Like they just have such a strong understanding of the game that it just doesn't feel like I'm ever gonna like improve enough to like even take sets off of them. But like in PM, it just feels like they just don't have as strong as like a foundation of it, just because it's so much different. I mean, the tech skill is a lot like Melee, but the game itself, I don't feel like it's like Melee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's different solutions to beat them.
Yep, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the last topic I want to talk about since we're running a little low on time. What do you guys think will happen to each of the communities after Smash 4 comes out?
It's a great question. I'm just gonna be straight here. I think the Melee players, a lot of them will stick to Melee, but I think almost none of the Brawl players will stick to Brawl. And the reason I say that is not because like I like one game, more than the other or anything. It's because Brawl, like I mentioned before, the Brawl players inherently they play more Smash games because they were more willing to make that transition, some of them at least, from Melee to Brawl. Or if they were new to Brawl, they were more willing to look at that game and be like, I'm going to try out this game instead of going with the status quo, which is Melee at the time. So I think as a community, the Brawl players will be more willing to transition into Smash 4 and maybe play that more exclusively and like maybe focus on that game. But the Melee players, I don't quite see that happening yet. And like we've been saying in the Melee community, we've been saying like, when is the end of this community going to come for the last like 4 or 5 years? Every year we have this discussion like, is this the last great like Melee year for us? And every year it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I really think the Melee community is not going to die until like the TVs die or the controllers start breaking to the point where we can't repair them. I honestly think that's the only thing that's going to kill the Melee community.
In my opinion, I actually agree with Rob. The Melee community is just they've stuck with this game for such a long time that I cannot see them, especially through Brawl. If they're not, there were a few people that switched over from Melee to Brawl, but in general, the Smash community stayed really strong. Or you can even use like Yuzuki as an example. He went to Brawl, but he's still a very strong Melee player. Like he never stopped playing the game. So there might be quite a few people that go and try out Smash 4. Maybe people that like play it like Yuzuki that will play that game as well. But I cannot see a lot of them like just quitting Melee. But as for Brawl, like I said earlier, Brawl people are generally Smash people. I have a lot of people on Facebook, and most of them are Brawl players that are just like following with the status updates on every new character that gets released, or saying that they're gonna main a good character in the game, like jokingly. But I can see a lot of Brawl players just moving on to the next game, and I just don't see that happening with Melee, just especially not after this Evo thing happened. There's no way the Melee's just say, okay, great, we got an Evo, time to just stop. I can't.
That's true. Like we have these conversations a lot. I feel like I talked to Kirby Kaze, and we both think the Wombo combo itself bought the whole Melee community like an entire year of life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just because of how much exposure and hype it brought, and not just like because it was a great combo, but because like people saw that others were still playing Melee, and it gave them hope that they could get back into the game. That was late 2008. That was like in the dark ages of Melee. So, and I think Evo did the same thing, except it probably bought like even more life for the Melee community. So, even with Smash 4 coming out soon, I don't think there's going to be too many Melee converts to Smash 4.
I agree. And well, I guess also you can say with Brawl, I think at the very start there's going to be people that play Brawl and Smash 4, but maybe a couple months in, I feel like a lot of them may switch over to PM. I mean, not to PM. Sorry, to Smash 4.
Yeah, I feel that. So
It's hard to say. It's so hard to say because like I don't know if you guys have seen any clues, but from what I've seen in the Smash 4 like previews and trailers, it's so hard to tell what type of game it's going to be because all you see are like the developers like smashing the C-stick and like not fast falling and everything,
Yeah, and
So-
it was kind of the same way when Brawl was coming out too. Like you couldn't really tell what kind of a game it was going to be until it was really close to coming out.
Yeah. So we got to see. I like the quality of game. I shouldn't say the quality of game. The type of game that it is gonna like dictate whether the Melee players, what percentage of them even try it, and then also what percentage of them stay with it.
I agree.
Yeah. it all comes down to because like there's a lot of people that are saying that Smash 4 will have more hit stun and stuff like that, and do you think that's really what Melee players are concerned with, is more hit stun in the game?
I think you can kind of if you want to give the 10-second reason, like the 10-second version of why Melee players don't play Brawl, like hit stun would definitely be one of the words in that description.
I agree, yeah.
But obviously, like we know that that's not like the only thing that would, more hit stun would not magically make it like a super better game.
Yeah,
A Melee attractive game.
It's definitely more than that, but it's a main factor for sure.
Yeah,
Can't ignore it.
It's one of the things where a lot of people have a really, I guess for lack of a better word, an awful perspective of the other community.
I guess it's not really a large portion of the community, but the people who are like very blunt or very hostile towards the other communities, even though it is a very small percentage, that portion is very. They feel very strongly about how, like, if they say Brawl is a terrible game because X, Y, and Z, there may be 2 or 3 people, but they feel really strongly about that.
Yeah, and they're heard the loudest because
they're heard the loudest.
They're the ones who are adamant about their opinions.
Yeah. But like an example of that would be like the hit stun thing. A lot of Brawl players think that that Melee players don't like playing Brawl because of the hit stun, which I mean is somewhat true, but that isn't the whole story.
If you gave the 30-second version of why Melee players don't play Brawl, I think it'd have something to do with the punishment system and the whole pace of gameplay.
Yeah.
So in Melee, if you get an opening, you're rewarded for that like very heavily if you know what you're doing, and there's a very specific, tight-knit like risk and reward system, and in Brawl that's changed up like drastically. So that's like a huge barrier to overcome for somebody who has been playing Melee and is trying to get into Brawl.
Yeah.
So if that system is back in some way in Smash 4, then hit stun's probably going to have something to do with it, because it doesn't look like Smash 4 is completely overhauling, the game engine. It's just, it's another Smash game. We recognize it. Like, people are jumping, double jumping, they're moving on stages. So hit stun's probably going to have to do with it. That's why like all these conversations come back to hit stun as one of the like main talking points.
Which again, like I said before, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because that isn't the whole story.
Yeah.
It's not the whole story, but that's going to be an integral part of like the punishment game that Melee players are used to and would like out of a new Smash game.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, the biggest problem that Melee players have with Brawl is that it's more defensive, correct?
I mean, that's like a very
yeah. If you want to put it in 15 seconds.
Yeah, that's just
Brawl is a very defensive. It's a lot slower pace. There's not a lot of hits. Yeah, you can just throw double work out there.
It's a very vague.
Yeah, I guess you can use that.
Yeah. But all right, we're cutting down on time. Robin's got to go do his Melee It On Me podcast too.
Alrighty.
I hope it happens. We had Prague retire on us, so we're down a person. So.
Oh man, that blows.
That was amazing.
I think it'll still happen though.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks for joining me tonight, guys. It was fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep, not a problem. I'll catch you guys later.
Yep. See you later.
All right, peace. All right, guys. Well, that's it for our Fish Flop podcast number 2. I'll be doing these about once a month. Weekly was just way too much thinking I had to do on top of school and everything like that. But expect these once a month. So I'll have another one of these sometime in October, probably the beginning or the middle of October. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'll definitely let you guys know when the next one is. If you liked what you saw, throw us a follow on Twitch, throw us a follow on, throw us a like on Facebook. Our Twitter is also up there, and everything and every video or stream that we do, including this one here, is going to be uploaded to our YouTube at Mr. Acid Apple. That's the only thing that's remotely different. But yeah, this is Zedek again signing off. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.